When you hear the word self-harm, what's the first image that flashes into your mind? For most of us, it's a pretty terrifying one.
Oh, absolutely. It's visceral. You think of visible injuries, scars,
Yeah.
things that are impossible to ignore.
Exactly. We
Yeah.
immediately connect it to physical damage.
Yeah.
But what if some of the deepest scars, the ones that really stick, are completely invisible?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about this hidden struggle, these habits that we inflict on ourselves every day, often disguised as just normal coping.
We give them other names.
We do. We say, I'm just a stress eater, or, I'm just really ambitious. We find ways to justify it. But these habits, whether they're about food or our thoughts or even intimacy,
Mhm.
they hurt. They hurt just as much. They're just quietly eroding our foundation. So in this deep dive, that's our mission. We want to pull back the curtain on this emotional self-sabotage. We're going to try and see what they look like, understand the why behind them, and maybe map out a way to shift towards something healthier.
And that why? I mean, that's everything, isn't it? Psychologically, what we're really looking at here is a failure of what we call affect regulation.
Okay, so what does that actually mean?
It means we're confusing real coping with bad coping strategies. These habits are just these clumsy, almost desperate tools we grab when a big emotion like grief or stress or that feeling of not being good enough just floods us.
And we don't have the right tools to handle it.
We don't. So instead of feeling the feeling and letting it pass, we build an escape route. We find a distraction. And often, the body is the first place we turn.
Okay, let's start there then. Let's unpack that, starting with maybe the most common one, emotional eating. Specifically, I'm thinking of binge eating as this
Yeah.
false comfort.
It's the perfect example. Because this isn't eating that's driven by actual hunger. It's
Right.
totally disconnected from any physical need. It's driven by stress, by sadness, by frustration.
And in that moment, food just becomes something else entirely.
It does. It stops being nourishment and it becomes comfort, a distraction. Sometimes, and this is a really tragic part, it's even a form of self-punishment.
And it tells such a seductive lie in the moment, doesn't it? While you're in it, there's this feeling of release, this delicious numbness.
But it's so fleeting, so hyper-fleeting. That chemical comfort just, it evaporates. And what's left behind is this huge wave of shame and regret.
Which is then compounded by the physical reality of it all, the digestive issues, the weight gain, all of that.
Right. So the shift here isn't about, just having more willpower. It's about interruption. It's about labeling.
So what does that look like in practice?
It's a technique. You could call it pause and label. When you feel that urge and you know you're not actually hungry, you just stop for 1 minute. And you ask, what am I really feeling? Am I bored? Am I lonely? Am I stressed? You give it a name.
And then you substitute the action.
Exactly. If the label is lonely, more food isn't the nourishment you need. Sending a quick text to a friend is.
That's a really powerful way to reframe it. Seeing the urge as a signal for something specific. But then there's the other side of the coin, the inverse. Not eating at all. Right. The deprivation trap.
When some people get hit with that overwhelm, their appetite just vanishes. And they tell themselves this dangerous story, I'm too busy to eat, or my pain is too big right now, my body doesn't matter.
And hours, maybe even a whole day, can go by.
And that is self-harm by neglect. Plain and simple, skipping the meal doesn't solve the problem.
No, it just leaves you completely drained. You're
Yeah.
exhausted, you can't think straight, and those mood swings, they're so much worse because your blood sugar's all over the place.
So the practical care here has to be really gentle. You have to be kind to yourself. When you're that overwhelmed, making a full meal feels like climbing a mountain. So you start small, like ridiculously small.
Not even a full plate of food.
Not at all. A smoothie, a handful of nuts, something with zero prep. The message is the point. The message is, my body still needs care, even when my mind is in crisis.
Okay, so let's move from the physical into our internal world, the internal warfare of entertaining negative thoughts. Because negative thoughts themselves, they're inevitable, right? They're just mental static.
They're the background noise of being human.
Right. But it's when we entertain them, when we invite them in and let them define who we are, that's when it becomes this really potent, hidden form of self-harm.
We're talking about cognitive distortions. That's the technical term. It's when you take a momentary feeling or a single event and turn it into a permanent definition of yourself.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Think of someone who fails a big exam and their first thought is, I'm just not cut out for this. I'm incompetent.
Not, I failed the test, but I am a failure.
Precisely. Or the person recovering from addiction who has a slip up and immediately thinks, I'll never get this under control. It's hopeless.
I think we all recognize that voice.
Yeah.
It's so insidious because it's not just criticizing what you did, it's attacking who you are. It just steals your will to try again.
Hmm.
So how do you fight an enemy that's literally inside your own head?
You have to fight it with a conscious, immediate counter-narrative. You have to start treating that voice like a malicious commentator, not your inner truth.
So you argue with it.
You do. When the thought says, I'm not good enough, you stop it right there and say, that's a distortion. Where's the evidence for that? Then you find counter evidence. Name 3 things you overcame last month. You have to celebrate every tiny win because each one is a brick of proof against that lie. The mantra has to be, feeling defeated does not define my ability to get back up. I have survived 100% of my worst days.
I like that. Let's shift gears a bit now into something we were calling escape velocity, starting with what might be the most socially acceptable form of self-sabotage: overwork, burnout, using productivity as a shield.
Ah, yes, the productivity shield. This is a huge one in our culture.
It's where we use success and busyness to actively avoid feelings we can't bear, like loneliness or grief,
Yeah.
or that deep feeling of just not being enough.
And it's so hard to spot, isn't it? The line between healthy ambition and self-harming avoidance is so blurry today.
That's the key question. I mean, being relentless is rewarded. How can you tell the difference between a good work ethic and what you're describing?
It all comes down to the motivation. Healthy ambition is driven by passion, by purpose, and it includes rest as part of the strategy for success. But this kind of maladaptive overwork, the self-harming kind, it's driven by anxiety. The goal isn't the project. The goal is the distraction.
It's about keeping the engine running so fast that you don't have time to feel that emptiness. And the cycle is just brutal. You skip sleep, you skip meals, you push yourself to the brink.
You tell yourself it's necessary or I'm just really driven.
But the toll is obvious. You're exhausted, you're snapping at people you love, you feel like a shell.
And here's the paradox that proves it's not working. Despite all that work, the feeling of not doing enough never goes away.
Because work can't fill that hole.
It can't. It can't erase loneliness or heal grief or grant you self-worth. That's the core insight here. Rest isn't a reward you earn. It's a necessity. Slowing down isn't weakness. It is a profound act of self-value. So if you're in that cycle, you have to ask that really hard question. What am I actually running from?
That's a deep one. Let's talk about the other big form of escape: using alcohol or drugs for temporary numbness. It starts so casually for many people. Just one drink to take the edge off.
And then maybe a few more to forget. It's a very quick, very effective, chemically induced way to regulate your feelings.
For a moment.
For a moment, yes. You feel lighter, freer,
Yeah.
maybe wonderfully numb, but we all know the crash is coming, the high wears off, the problems are right there waiting for you.
And now they've brought friends. A headache, regret, and that horrible rebound anxiety.
Right. And this crosses the line into self-harm when it's no longer occasional, when it becomes the default, the go-to way to cope with your day.
It becomes suppression, not expression.
Exactly. And the long-term biological cost is just enormous. It messes with your memory, your sleep, your immune system. It makes anxiety and depression so much worse. You have to challenge the lie that says, I need this to get through the day. You don't. You need better tools to deal with the pain you're trying to escape.
Finally, let's talk about something that can be really difficult to discuss, which is risky intimacy as a form of self-punishment.
This is about using sex not for connection, but for avoidance. In a healthy context, of course, sexual activity can be a wonderful stress reliever, but it becomes self-harm when the intention completely shifts.
When it becomes about numbing pain or getting a quick hit of validation or even actively punishing yourself.
Exactly, punishing yourself for some perceived fault or internal guilt.
So what are the indicators? How do you know when it's crossed that line?
The indicators are in the risk and the intent. Are you engaging in high-risk behaviors? Unprotected sex, situations that feel unsafe. It's when the motivation is no longer about mutual pleasure, but becomes about emotional obliteration. It's using another person's body to inflict pain on your own emotions.
And the aftermath of that must be just devastating. The fleeting pleasure fades and you're left with
regret, shame, a feeling of being used, which just reinforces that original feeling of worthlessness you were trying to escape, plus all the very real physical risks.
So how does someone start to break that pattern?
It starts with a philosophical shift. A rejection of a really dangerous belief that many people hold without even realizing it. You have to reject the idea that your body is just a vessel for the pleasure of others, or that your value is defined by what you can offer someone physically. Your body is yours, it's your home, and it deserves care and respect and deep love from you, first and foremost.
If you've stayed with us through this, and I know this has been a challenging deep dive, if you've reflected on some of these invisible scars, just take a second to acknowledge your own strength. This is not easy stuff to think about.
It really isn't.
And if you recognized yourself in any of these patterns, it doesn't mean you're broken. It just means you're human. It means you've been navigating life the best way you knew how. Until now.
Until this moment.
And that's the real power of knowing, isn't it? Just understanding these habits, giving them a name, productivity shield, cognitive distortion. It gives you a choice. It empowers you to stop just reacting and to start consciously responding. And every small choice to care for yourself instead of harm yourself,
Yeah.
it all counts.
We started by saying that our emotions need expression, not suppression, so I'll leave you with this to think about. Considering all the habits we discussed today, from the overworking to the binge eating to that destructive inner voice, what is the one deep, unexpressed emotion that one of these habits is currently masking in your life? Just think about that single need that is still waiting for real healing.